Thank you for joining us. So we're going to start with this roundtable about how to make the most of the shared interest between sport fan engagement and IP protection. En français, comment tirer le meilleur parti de l'intérêt commun, de l'engagement des supporters sportifs et de la protection de la propriété intellectuelle. Je vais faire une petite entrée en matière. Before I introduce you to our speakers today, les fans de sport sur les réseaux sociaux se sont imposés comme de véritables influenceurs de tendance. Comment l'entertainment sportif peut assurer la protection de ses droits tout en tirant le meilleur parti de ces nouveaux arbitres? Donc, définitivement une question pour, entre autres, des avocats et des gens du milieu du sport. Introducing our speakers today, so we have Daniel Pink, Director of Copyright and Broadband, Rogers. We also have Ben Grad, SVP Strategic Partnerships and Operations at Fubo. Et notre animatrice, Olivia Joffre, est de retour avec nous.
Merci beaucoup. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Sorry. Well, I'm very happy today to discuss this topic because actually it's an important topic, and I hope other people will join us today to listen to what we have to say. So I'm here with Ben Grad and Daniel Pink, and sports is one of the biggest victims right now of piracy, and that's why we felt that it was important to have this conversation today. So I would like my friends here to start by introducing their companies. So maybe, Ben, you'd like to start?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Olivia. So for those of you that don't know Fubo TV, we are a live streaming TV company. So what does that mean? That means that we carry live sports, linear channels like CBC, like Global, HGTV, but also live sports like the English Premier League exclusively in Serie A. We are a publicly traded company. We're on the New York Stock Exchange, went public 3 years ago, and we operate in 4 countries, US, Canada, France through Molotov, which is our affiliate there, and Spain. We've got about 1.6 million subscribers. Globally, we do about $1 billion in revenue. US is our biggest market, but Canada is a very important market for us. Okay, is that better? All right, how about that? By the way, thanks everyone for skipping lunch to attend this panel. We're counter-programming lunch, so we'll see how that strategy works. So a little bit more about our company and our platform. We have a proprietary channel called Fubo Sports Network, which is where the exclusive rights air for EPL and Serie A. And we're on all of the connected TV platforms like Roku, Apple TV, Samsung connected TVs, iOS, Android, basically anywhere that you would watch Netflix, you can watch Fubo. And in Canada, we're very fast growing. We've seen triple-digit growth over the last couple of years, and ultimately our subscribers are younger than cable. It's over-indexes in new Canadians and in urban markets.
I think our comms team would be very angry to see that how much blue is on this instead of the red. I promise it was Rogers red. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Pink. I thank you, Olivia, for having us, have me back this year to talk about piracy. Definitely my area of focus at Rogers, and something I'm incredibly passionate about and happy to talk to small crowds, large crowds about on a daily basis. For those less familiar with Rogers, we are kind of one of Canada's largest telecommunications company. We have 2 main arms that are really impacted by piracy on a regular basis. On one hand, we have the media side, where we operate 53 radio stations, over 20 television stations. We have the exclusive rights to a ton of sports, and that's why we are keen on protecting our sports rights. So in the sports world, we have a big focus on hockey. And if you're not from Canada, hockey is kind of the #1 sport viewed in Canada. But in addition to that, we have exclusive rights to NBA games, to WWE, and we also own the Blue Jays, which is a Major League Baseball game. So we also have lots of baseball rights. And so we invest a ton of money on the media side to air these games. And as we'll talk about plenty today, piracy is a huge issue with live sports. And part of the reason it's such a huge issue is because the value of live sports is during the 2-hour window when they air. And the second the game's over, no one cares, you know, what happened in the first period of a hockey game. All they care about is that final score. So employing a strategy that allows us to tackle piracy live is very important for us. But outside of the media wing of our company, we also still try to sell cable TV packages, or now IPTV packages, which is kind of the more common way of watching content now. And when you're competing with pirates who don't have to pay for any content, you can imagine it's quite easy for them then to resell access or give away access for free, which is very hard to compete with when we charge, you know, $100 if you want to watch sports. So piracy not only kills us on the media side, it also has a huge impact to us on the cable side of our business, or our home business as well, home and internet. So that's a bit about us. I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, Daniel. I'd like to know if it's possible for you to provide us with any numbers you have on piracy, because you're saying that your content is highly pirated. If you'd show us some figures, maybe?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to sports piracy, one really interesting thing we just did was that we were really interested in understanding the habits of sports pirates. And some of the information that we were able to find, probably relatively self-explanatory, probably not that surprising, but I think there was a number of really interesting things. And so what we did was we actually ran a survey of 750 Canadians who call themselves sports fans and also admit to pirating. And we prodded them on all sorts of questions about, you know, what sports are you watching? How are you interacting with sports? Where are you finding pirated content? Like, what are your habits? How much are you watching pirated? How much are you watching legal? And we really wanted to understand it so we could either, you know, better offer services and products that they might be interested in, but we also just kind of want to understand who these target demographics are. And so, you know, some of the facts that we found, probably not so surprising. Pirates skew male. They skew in the ages of 18 to 34. And they're really engaged. On average, they're following, and by following, I mean watching, betting, reading, talking to their friends, on average 4+ different sports leagues. And I think one of the interesting facts that we did find, though, is that their vast majority of them are actually making at least $75,000 a year, or self-indicating they make $75,000 a year, and over 32% of them are over $125,000 a year, which at least to me suggests that the cost barrier analysis, you know, maybe less weight. And it's actually interesting is that they actually suggested in their, when we probed them about why they pirate content, besides the fact that some weird percentage of them actually suggested that all sports should just be free to access. Well, you know, that's a pretty, you know, kind of out there view probably, but they actually appreciated the fact that, yes, they should have to pay for content, whether they want to or not, you know, two different things. We can come back to that, but in terms of what it costs us, and we're going to spend, I think, some more time on this type of slide as we have some other conversations. We asked them, like, are you paying for this content that you're pirating, or are you not? Like, how much of this is free stuff you're looking for online versus not? And I think what was really interesting was that it's 24% of them are actually paying for their pirated content. And on average, they're paying almost $13 a month to access illegal streams. Like, Sportsnet's only like $20 a month. So they're not even getting like the biggest discount in terms of access. But when we extrapolate this survey results and we look at the population 18 to 34 in Canada, at $13 a month, we're like guessing that sports piracy on its own is contributing about $140 million a year to like the illegal market. And I think we've heard earlier today, like, where is this money actually going? Yeah, it's pocketing, like lining the pockets of some bad actors, but a lot of it is going organized crime. When you follow the chain of money, it's all leading back up to a lot of organized crime organizations. So it's a lot of money funneling out of the legitimate system to the illegitimate market.
Would you say that the viewer's experience is the same? Like if I go on a pirate streaming website or use pirated services, will the quality be the same?
Yeah, I can take that. So, you know, it definitely, your mileage varies. On those sites, there are better, there are worse ones, there are ones that are easier to find, ones that are harder to find. We think a lot of the value of legitimate sites like Fubo or Sportsnet or Rogers is that, you know, the content is easy to discover, streams are uniformly high quality, and, you know, you don't have these bumps in the road on quality of service. So, you know, there are, you know, certainly there's the pricing aspect, but just in terms of quality, you know, again, it's not uniform, but, you know, typically the experience is much better on the legitimate sites.
And unless you want to add something to
again, I think one of the things we did with this survey, which for anyone who's actually gone out and looked at sports piracy sites, none of this will be surprising, but it's always great to have data to talk to executives who have no idea what the hell piracy is or that it actually exists. But, you know, the vast majority of people accessing these pirated sites all admit that I'm getting bombarded with ads. The stream quality is not as good as what we want. Usually my stream goes down, something's happened, I have to find a new one. So I think, like, from a customer perspective, it's not a great service, but usually when you're not paying for something, you know, you get what you pay for, I guess would be what I would say. So you're getting what you pay for. At the same time, though, I got to say, like, I've gone to presentations where I've shown our Sportsnet team, like, this is the shit you need to figure out because these pirates are making your service look like child's play. Like, there are plenty of piracy services out there that are mopping the floor with what we're capable of even doing. And it's, okay, yes, they're not paying for the content, but like just the actual website design and the ease of switching from one sport to another sport or game to game or following multiple games at the same time and getting highlights, like there are things that I think we can learn from the pirates who are also between themselves trying to fight over, you know, market share of pirated sites.
So what avenues can I go to if I want to find pirated content? Because with this survey, I'm pretty sure here you see that the percentages of the social networks used. So what do you do if you want to find unlawful sports content? Who wants to go first? Daniel?
So I'm a lawyer, and I work in our legal team, and my job is to combat the piracy. So we try to identify where it's being sourced, shut it down. You know, we'll talk a lot more about enforcement, I think, later on. But like, if you were to take out your phones, I know you all have them right now, and just Google free NHL stream. Like, you could do it while we talk, by all means. Take out your phone, Google free NHL stream.
Google, but don't click on the links, okay?
Yes, this is a cybersecurity conference. Do not click on the link. You're going to spend, I'm guessing, about 45 seconds, and you might have to click next page twice before you find the Sportsnet website, which is the exclusive licensee for you to watch NHL content in Canada. And almost all of page 1 and almost all of page 2 are piracy sites. So yes, like, do I have a big job to like get those all removed? 100%. But you know, it's when you can show things like that to the business where they realize that, one, how have you not like paid Google to make your listing come up first? But ease of access, right? And where are people going to get their piracy sites? There's two primary places. One, social media, where I think the vast majority of people are looking for, and the survey results kind of suggest that too, because social media is a huge problem. And two, like, they're literally just Googling it because that's easy to do, and there's no shortage of sites available where they can access the content for free or for a small fee.
Perhaps you'd like to.
Sure, I'll just add that in the search world with Google, there are the organic links that come up, and depending on what the search terms are, that might be more likely to have legitimate sites or something free in front of it, maybe less likely. My concern in particular is around what Google does on its paid listings. So for certain search terms, if you type in, watch Liverpool versus Everton, tomorrow, then what'll come up in the first or second paid ad might be a pirate site in addition to our site on there. And this is really frustrating to us because Google's getting paid for this. It's not just trying to like algorithmically match something. And we actually work with Leak ID on a process to flag these for Google, which they do very well. And Google will take down this specific offending link, and then the next day it'll come back, basically. And right now what Google says is, well, we can only take down these one by one. We don't know that a given domain might always be pirate sites, but in some cases, like empirically 100% of the time it is always illegitimate streams. And so there's some more work to do with, I think, folks in the ecosystem around better highlighting this issue for Google and putting pressure on them to really do the right thing here and not just nibble around the edges, but actually start blacklisting domains.
And one thing I might just highlight on the Google, and when I Google like any search, any of these search like tools that you can use, but the problem that we're also having is like, yes, I'm going to deal with the 3 pages of NHL sites that you just scrolled through, but these search engines, they won't delist the website, right? So if the main page doesn't have the infringing content on it, they're not going to delist that website, so freenhlstreams.com. What they will eventually delist the next day, because they don't work in real time, is the subdomain or sublink that says, freenhlstreams.com/ Maple Leafs versus Ottawa Senators, right? That's what's going to get delisted, that direct link. So you can't search that, but you're still going to get to the main domain. So it's not a perfect system, even when you're dealing with Google. And to your point, Ben, they won't take down, like, it's not an easy out, meaning you have to go like actually do more effort, which is unfortunate because it should be very clear that these websites are 100% infringing.
That's part of the issue. And I mean, remember when we were discussing about what we're going to say on this panel, you said, I quote, there's no silver bullet. It's a multi-pronged approach. So there are different ways to tackle piracy and to protect our content. And we're going to walk you through these solutions, and you'll see that there is not one solution that will work for everything. It's just, these are efforts ongoing that just never stop. So we're going to talk about demonetization, partnerships, site blocking, and how we can make content the most valuable for viewers and for fans. What will make them want to purchase the content?
I guess thanks for the tee up, Olivia. One thing that Daniel mentioned in terms of discovery, in addition to search, was social media, right? So people go into YouTube and they look for, Manchester United live game, or they look for Inter Milan versus AC Milan, and within those social media structures, things have improved over the years. So Facebook and Google do both have more automated tools that we can use and rights holders can use to upload streams that are basically used from a fingerprinting perspective. So then they can flag lookalike streams that are on their platforms and sort of automatically block those. So that is another area. It's, I think, one of the tools in the toolkit, but it doesn't get everything. We still have to use eyes on glass on these sites as kind of one of the tools in the toolkit.
Yeah, for example, us at Leak ID, so we're a French anti-piracy company. We use these tools. So you have Content ID on YouTube, you have rights managers on Facebook, but it's not 100% efficient because, again, pirates are clever. And for example, with Content ID, they will tweak the images, or they will slow the images or change the colors a little bit so it can go through the system. So that's why we have teams, humans, we're going to scan all these social media networks to check whether some of the unlawful content just went through the system and wasn't detected. It's also a lot of work. We have to engage in lots of discussions with the platforms. With TikTok, for example, we're the first ones to tell them, you guys are going to have a problem with pirated content. And it was even before they started having live content on the platform. But to be honest, it was month and month of us sending Excel sheets of all the links we could find on TikTok that showcased unlawful content. And with Meta, although we got a partnership with them, so we have an API which enables us to submit notifications in easy manner. Our job is to detect, send notifications, and then recheck the status of the links, because our clients, they want to know how long it took the platform to get the content removed. But although they gave us an API to submit those notifications easily, our job to detect the unlawful links and recheck their statuses, it's still very hard. It's only manual. We can only do it manually. And we often get soft banned because they think we're bots. And it makes our work almost impossible. So that's why it's, again, yours truly has to reach out to Meta and say, hi, we're good guys, we want to protect content. But it's a month of discussion, and meanwhile, piracy is accessible, and it's...
Why do they think you're bots?
Well, because we detect massive amounts of links on Facebook, and so we submit massive numbers of notifications. And although it's just us with our tiny hands and tiny fingers submitting the notifications, we have teams in France and in North Africa working, and all the time, because we don't wait. I mean, usually sports games, they're on in the evenings and the weekends, so our teams work 24/7, when, as you said, these guys don't. It's just through partnerships. I won't say the names of the platforms, but because we built strong relationships with them, we give them the agenda for our clients, saying, we need a team on your side this weekend because we have a big game. So they will ask 2 or 3 people on their side to be there on a Saturday evening just to handle our notifications. But that's a month of discussions. And also, another thing I'd like to talk about is about my friends at X/Twitter, because they're starting this new trend that to comply and to cooperate, well, they can do it if you provide them, I'm not going to say pay, if you provide them with a little tiny sum of money. These are the things we're dealing with now. So that's why, but we'll get into that afterwards maybe. We need strong legal frameworks for us to be able to work in an efficient manner.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you said. So I'll jump to, so at least we have a bit of red. I promise it wasn't supposed to be blue, Felix. At Rogers, again, my line is there's no silver bullet to solving piracy. So we have kind of a multi-pronged approach that we implement to try to go after it from various different angles. We're a small but mighty team of 4 people, so we do what we can. But I think at a very high level, the ways that we go about it are: one, we try to identify where the source of the pirated stream are coming from. And to the extent that we can either identify, hey, this is one of our OTT subscription people, we can shut them down. Or if it's coming from a Rogers subscriber, then we can deal with it. But if we can make sure that it's not a Rogers source of it, at least we know that our hands are clean. But one of the nice things about being a cable company and a media company and an internet company is we do have access to a ton of data. And so we are able to kind of identify a bit better than maybe some other rights holders the source of where streams are coming from. And if it's a Rogers IP address, then we get a bit more information. The second thing we look at, and we've already talked about a bit, but is how are people accessing the content? And so we talked about social media and having strategies against social media. We've talked about kind of search and dealing with search. But the other thing you have to remember is that a lot of people, so that 26% or 24% of people who are admitting to paying for pirated content, they're getting it somewhere. And where we actually often see people buying their access is through online marketplaces. And so in the last 12 months, we have removed over 30,000 advertisements from within Canada. It would be like Kijiji, which would be like, or eBay or Amazon, where people are actually selling directly to consumers some sort of subscription service that would include sports. So we do a lot of work, and again, it's about engaging with these platforms to try to get them to have better policies for dealing with this, because obviously if we're removing 30,000 posts a year and we're not even catching it, and all you have to do is go to any of these platforms, you'll see that they, as quick as they go down, they pop back up. So it's an ongoing whack-a-mole game, but you got to stay on top of it. That's another major source of how we kind of prevent people from being able to access it. I won't take too much time on the demonetization, but that's a huge part of what we do, because we try to identify who the big players are, and then we go after their business model. If they have advertisements on their websites, we'll get their ad network kind of license revoked, so they can't monetize the ads. If they accept any form of payment, minus cryptocurrency, which is a bit more complicated, then we can get their payment processing shut down. And that honestly is probably one of the most effective things we can do, is going after their ability to actually make money. Because the second we get rid of their ability to make money, the websites tend to disappear. And the rules around payment processors are that they actually keep databases and information, and they have to share it among MasterCard and Visa. So as long as after you get so many strikes, it becomes much more difficult to actually set up kind of those services. Also, the fun fact about PayPal is if PayPal shuts down your account, according to their terms of service, they get to keep any money that you have in your account. So they are very motivated to shut down bad actors, because they get it's like the biggest payday they get is shutting down bad actors. Then really the next thing is, so if we can't, one of the problems with piracy, which we haven't really talked about, is the difficulty in actually identifying who's behind it. Because pirates are making so much money, and it's so easy to be anonymous on the internet, and you can operate globally while being in any one jurisdiction, that it becomes very easy to be anonymous. And so if we can't identify who it is, and we have no idea how to shut it down, and they're not in Canada, then we really don't have a lot of legal tools that we can use to go after someone in the Ukraine or Croatia or Russia or China. And so what's the most valuable tool that we have? It's site blocking. So I might not be able to shut down the service, but if I can prevent the vast majority of Canadians from being able to access the content, then unless you are a diehard pirate, which no matter what I do, you're still going to pirate content, I can actually make a significant impact on preventing you from accessing pirated streams of sports content. And we might talk a bit more about site blocking a bit more and how we use it as a tool, but for now, maybe I'll turn it back to you to share.
So yeah, there is when you talked about demonetization, not demonization, although we're talking about piracy, but demonetization. There is this initiative that we launched in Europe a few years ago called Follow the Money, and we're trying to go after payment actor, but also advertisers. But still, it's some of the payment actors are cooperative, but not all of them, because as you said, balance of interests. I think we could get into, because I don't know if we have much time, we can briefly get into site blocking. Would you like to, yeah?
Okay, so this is what so in Canada, Rogers, Bell, and Videotron, if you've been to some of the other piracy panels today, you've probably heard from a bit of history about the site blocking, so I'm not going to get into it, the background of it, but really I'll explain how we use this tool. And really our focus at Rogers is on the live sports context, because that's where we see the most value. And so what we were able to convince a court to do at the very basic level is we showed the court the problem that we're experiencing with piracy, and we told them how we can solve it. And by solve it, I mean make a big dent in it. And it's by implementing a strategy that we call dynamic site blocking. And what makes something dynamic? Two things. One, what gets blocked is getting updated in real time, near real time. Every 5 minutes, we're updating the list of places that we're blocking. The second thing that's dynamic about it is that it only occurs during a live event window. So in the hockey context, we use it from puck drop to the last whistle. And it's only during that 2.5, 3 hour window when the blocking is implemented. And so what are we blocking? We're blocking IP addresses, so it's much more effective than domain blocking, but we block IP addresses that are responsible for the underlying stream of a hockey game. So back to my example of freenhlstreams.com or .net, whatever it is. If we're implementing blocking, you can still go to that website, but when you click play on the game stream is not going to work, because we've identified the source of that underlying stream, we've run our checks, and it gets blocked. How does that practically work? Well, what we do is we put fingerprinting technology. So we put like an invisible marker on our live streams, and then we use a vendor who scours the internet and looks for links. They're looking on those open web sources, but they're also looking at IPTV services, or illegal IPTV services, the ones that people are paying for. And then what they do is they generate the list of IP addresses that are showing illegal streams of NHL games, or now MLB games as well. And they circulate this list of IP addresses every 5 minutes to all the major ISPs in Canada. And when I say all the major ISPs, these are the ISPs that account for about 97.5% of internet customers in Canada, so a huge, vast majority of them. And then it just gets blocked. And when it gets blocked, what it means is that we use the same technology that we do for DDoS attacks. So it's not, we reroute all the, anytime you try to go to one of these IP addresses and you're on the Rogers network, it gets rerouted to like a black hole. That's about as complex as I'm going to talk about it, because I can't go much more technical than that. I'm the lawyer, not the IT professional. But it's incredibly effective. It doesn't cover 100% of the water, mainly because we need to put in certain checks and balances to ensure that we're not blocking, or we're not accidentally blocking legitimate content. So we have a lot of safeguards in place, but more or less, we've seen some really great results. And maybe quickly, I'll talk about some of the results. That's very small. I thought I was going to have that screen over there. It would have been easier for you to see it. But through the 2022-2023 NHL season, we blocked over 76,000 IP addresses associated with making available NHL games. At a bare minimum on the Rogers network, at the lowest number we could calculate, that equates to blocking over 400,000 people from accessing these websites. Why I say at the very bare minimum is because we can only, the second one person tries to access an IP address, it gets blocked. Anyone who tries to access it afterwards, it doesn't register on our network. So, our triggers for blocking occurred 400 and something thousand times. So that's why I say at a very base minimum, just on the Rogers network, so we're one of the bigger players, but Bell would be equally as big, we prevented over 400,000 people from accessing these illegal streams. One of the interesting things we learned from implementing the blocking, when we went back and we asked through our surveys that I was talking about earlier, is, so what were your experiences accessing hockey content this last year? Like, what did you notice? Hockey content, more than any other sport, people all said we had technical issues. It's like almost 70% of the time that they tried to access pirated content, they said, we encountered technical issues. Another interesting fact, which I thought is, probably one of the only facts that we have so far that show that it's effective, is that 25% of people said they got frustrated enough that they actually went out and bought a legal subscription to watch the content that they wanted. So are we converting a huge amount? No. But I would say that 25% of diehard fans who are now going out and buying, that's a pretty good win for us. Other interesting facts, very quickly, I'll give Ben, to comment on some other stuff as well, is with NHL, we saw no growth when we implemented the blocking of piracy. We saw no growth in kind of a trajectory of more people saying they pirated content. However, when we looked at other sports like NBA, where we're not blocking, we saw a doubling of the amount of people who are saying they're accessing pirated streams. So when we're looking at sports that we're not currently doing blocking on, we're seeing huge growth, whereas for sports that we are blocking on, not only are we seeing no growth, but we're actually seeing increases in people in that age demographic I talked about, 18 to 34, who are actually watching it on linear content. Very rarely do you see growth in linear viewership in the 18 to 34 bucket. So when you see like 13% increase, we're talking good impacts.
Yeah, I can talk to that a little bit as well. We're not involved in the dynamic site blocking yet, but we are certainly exploring that. We do think it's very promising potential solution. In our own numbers, when we've done customer surveys around English Premier League fans, for example, we see the percentage that are actually subscribers to our service, that are hardcore fans, and then a much larger number says they are watching it. We know the percentage of the market that are subscribing. The other ones are watching it, and we know they're not all watching at pubs and friends' houses. So, there's very clearly, a large number that are accessing it these ways, and we're definitely optimistic that this could be a helpful solution.
We didn't get to talk about this slide, and he's not going to be so happy to see these types of numbers. Last thing, I promise. So when we looked at what actually people are pirating, you'll see, at least in Canada, you have NHL, NBA are kind of the two big ones. But when we look at something like the Premier League or UFC, it's not as large, but the fans who are engaged in it admit to pirating the content. For UFC, they spend 58% of the time watching illegal streams. For Premier League, it's 45% of the time watching illegal streams versus the legitimate stream.
I wish we
Thank
had
you very
time for more. We could have talked about it for much longer. if we have any questions, I believe you'll be around if you want to chat a little more on the subject. Daniel Pink, Director of Copyright, and Ben Rogers, thank you very much. Ben Grad, SVP Strategic Partnerships and Operations at Fubo, and Olivia Joffre. It was very interesting. I'm happy a lot of people got to join us also. Thank you so much. Merci.